Once again, thank you so much for joining us on Viewpoint this Saturday with DLB, Dumo Lulu-Briggs. Once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Perhaps I should begin with our condolences to you on the passing on of your father. Was well known all over the country, philanthropist, a gentleman. Our condolences on behalf of the management of Silverbird. We send you our condolences. And again, maybe I should.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Maybe I should start from that. You know, when you've said a lot of things about yourself, but there's one I read which is quite interesting. You said you are the son of a truck pusher. Your father was a truck pusher here in Port Harcourt. Your father was an agricultural laborer in Bida in the present-day Niger State. You said he was a police recruit who left the Nigerian police force to join the Nigerian Port Authority as a clerical staff. And he said he did not attend any formal school beyond Standard 1, but improved himself through state-owned libraries, corresponding courses, and pulled himself through life by his bootstrap and became a business mogul and a billionaire. Lulu-Briggs, look at the life your father lived. Do you think it is possible for an average boy in Port Harcourt to live that same life today and grow up to become a billionaire as your father was?
Well, Shegun, that's the reason for why I'm in this race. So that people can realize their highest potentials. So that we can have a society that supports, people's aspirations, a society that would care, a society that will encourage, a society that will experience, the river's, dream. So that for all of us who are hardworking, for all of us who are endowed, and for all of us, who have shown some dedication to get certain things done, that you actually have the institutions of state support you to realize your highest potential. It wouldn't matter to them where you're from. All that matters is that you're a rivers person, you have great potentials, and then of course you have institutions that are strong that will support all our aspirations and ensure that that we have that state that we used to have growing up. I also mentioned, if you noticed, that growing up I had more food to eat in the home of my neighbors than I have eat in my home. It was that bad, and if my father was poor, my mother was even worse. But of course I am the man that I am today because society was very supportive. And when I look at our young today, I ask myself, would they have the same opportunities that we had growing up? The answer is obviously no. They don't have those opportunities, and we have to ensure that the things that worked for us must also work for succeeding generations of our people. So that in a nutshell would explain why someone like me, who ordinarily would not have bothered to want to run for governor at this time, will be in this race. We've looked at what's going on, and we know that definitely Rivers people deserve a lot better than what they are getting. And I wouldn't say it's because the current government is terrible. All I would say is that they are trying their best. Unfortunately, that best falls way short. And Rivers people cannot settle for something less.
When I was also reading through your story, and which you have just said here, and you said here that you were on the streets of Port Harcourt and you know poverty, and because you were begging to eat on the street of Port Harcourt. And unfortunately, statistics available to us, Nigeria Bureau of Statistics published on the 14th of October 2018 says poverty rate, it says 58%, and that's reading directly, it said 58.9% of residents in River State are poor.
Yeah.
That's a huge statistics you're coming to inherit. So tell us, what would be your own blueprint in ensuring that people don't beg for food the way you beg for food, and ensuring that this 58.9% Rivers people who are on the poverty line are moved away?
Well, like I mentioned, it is not that it is wrong to to have projects. It is amazing. Of course, we need to renew our infrastructure. So we need to take development, to the urban areas as well. But of course, in doing that, we have to ensure that the people are carried along. Now, what will help young people? What will help the aged? What will help, our graduates? Jobs. We need to create jobs. And once we create jobs, people would no longer beg on the streets. They'll be gainfully employed. Families shall become strong and will support, the weak amongst them. We have a terrible situation today where the family system is broken down completely broken down, because breadwinners can no longer find bread to win home. Children now sometimes even provide food for the home. So you have a situation where A mother will perhaps, stay out and call, her daughter, who is just about 16 or 17 or 18, that daughter's boyfriend is at the gate waiting for her. That was not the culture. That was not the culture. It happens now because the parents have lost control. They've lost control. So we need to provide jobs. Once we are able to provide jobs, families will become strong again. And then, of course, the values will start from the home. There will be discipline, in the homes. And everybody else, will feel that they are part and parcel of a decent society.
But I want you to tell me how you intend to create this job. How do you want to create it?
Well, first and foremost, right, there are several people who have ideas, but they can't fund those ideas. So we intend, to engage some venture capitalists, place funds in those, venture capitalist arrangements, and then create job centers almost in every local government area. So people, can go to those job centers, and those job centers will be told the sort of jobs that are available and the sort of areas where they can go to, to get revenue, to get funds to help them with their business ideas. So if you have a fantastic business idea, for instance, Rivers State government would have made some provision in an account where when you go, all they will need to look at is your business proposal, and then, of course, the venture capitalists will invest in that your business. Now, it's different from going to take loans. This venture capitalist will have, an interest in your business, and that will mean that you probably have an accountant who will look at your books with you, look at your ideas with you, and ensure that that which you have come up with the business plan, which they have seen and they like, and they have funding, that the funds will be properly utilized. So you can have perhaps, one accountant assist in some 6 or 7, different businesses, right? So helping with their books and ensuring that everybody who has an idea, who is funded, and that idea that is being funded is brought to fruition. So this is one angle that we can use, right, to create jobs. Secondly, we'll look at the oil and gas industry that we have. We have a situation where oil and gas accounts for about 90% of the earnings, yet contributes just about 10% to GDP. Now that tells you that there's a lot of wastage that, we have to trap. Oil is a depleting resource, we agree, but we have a booming gas economy that is coming. We have more than, trillions, cubic feet of gas. So we have to ensure that from day one, we afford our young people the sort of training that is necessary to take advantage of the gas economy that is coming. So we're talking about creating growth pool industries. Now those growth pool industries are industries that will employ people, in their thousands. Now these venture capitalists will just look at SMEs. They also will look at, large scale, business, proposals. If you want to do recycling, for instance, it's going to cost you a huge amount of money. They look at the idea that you have. They shall invest in those things as well, because those ones will also create jobs. Now we have to bring a business approach, to governance. We look at situations. Then we have to, aside from creating job centers, we have to create, agencies, right? Employment agencies, so people know that they can go from this point to the next point to find out what is available, and people are there to tell them the different opportunities that are available. We are going to, above everything else, create an innovation triangle of government, the private sector, and the academia. Shegun, I tell you, the rational exuberance of the American economy in the last 50 years is owing to 3 innovations. One, the computer, the microchip, and the internet. Now, that was brought about by some triangular alliance between business, government, and the academia. We are going to carry out a revolution. We are going to ensure that we have our people properly trained, that the business community will sit down with the academia, sit down with the government, fuse together and come up with ideas. If we are going to move away from the current situation where people don't have jobs, then we need to give people the opportunity to even create jobs on their own. We see what's going on in the digital market. We have to ensure that our people are trained, that they are able to take advantage of opportunities, as they come across.
Fantastic. And I particularly allow you to take us through your blueprint, because you said in several of your interviews that you would want to be called Mr. Jobs. and not Mr. Project. But again, looking through your background, let's look at a bit of your history. You served as the general manager and pioneer executive director and the chief operating officer of Monipolo Limited from 1995 to 2002. And of course, we know that Monipolo is owned by your father. And also, you also served as the managing director of DLB Concerns Limited, 2002. You served as the chairman board at the Platform Petroleum Limited and also served as the vice chairman. You were also in private legal practice from 1988 to 1994. In all of these, Dumo Lulu-Briggs, tell us, how many jobs have you created? What makes you think you are competent to create jobs?
Well, several, and if you look at my track record, I'm sure, you'll be glad. From Monipolo, which was heavily indebted when we joined, right? We were able to move Monipolo from a company that was owing millions of dollars to a company that has provided thousands of jobs for young Nigerians, mostly Rivers people. This is one of the perhaps few indigenous companies that is completely managed, by Nigerians, mostly Rivers people. And I was so glad that I was part of the growth story, of Monipolo, from being general manager of Monipolo. Because of my activities in the company, I was promoted to executive director and then, of course, to managing director. And today, Monipolo is one of the few success stories that we have in the oil and gas industry. Now I'm also in Platform as chairman of Platform. Now, if you know, Platform, right, got their license in 2001, and by 2007 we had been able to start production. We have not had more than 2,000 barrels of production. But with that little amount of production, we have been able to do very massive things. We have created thousands, of jobs. People are employed in their host communities. People are employed in Lagos, And so I am used to creating jobs and sustaining jobs, good, valuable jobs. Not, jobs where, people are engaged on part-time basis and all that. And all of these companies are doing amazingly well. And then these companies are also socially responsible. If you look at the giant project that Monipolo is currently in our host communities and what Platform is doing, not just in our host communities, even helping, right, our higher institutions. Just recently, we built, a geology department. Mm-hmm. Completely from scratch to finish, functional, fully equipped, in the University of Nigeria and Nsukka. So these are the sort of things that we're trying to do to encourage, our universities, because we know they are going to be partners, right, in the development, of Nigerians. And that's the same idea that we want to bring, to Rivers State. Mm-hmm. Ensure that we don't take education for granted, that we envision, a situation where the world is moving away perhaps from oil and gas. Fortunately, Nigeria will remain, strong because of our huge gas potentials. But there's ICT, which we need to take advantage of. So we have envisioned that, and then we know that if we are able to have some fantastic innovations come out of, our universities, right, in partnership with government, in partnership with the private sector, that on its own will create a huge amount of jobs. Now, if you look at the coastal character of our state, I got a World Bank group to put together, right, a program for me on what can be done in Rivers State. Because, like I said, it is better to be prepared and not called than be called and not prepared. Now, they said that tourism, right, is the way to go in Rivers State. So that is one huge area that government have refused to look into. Tourism attracts more than $20 billion to the South African economy annually. And our topography is most suitable, for tourism. The 2019 Nigerian budget, right, is about $23 billion in total. Imagine that we have, right, taken advantage of our tourism potential, and we have created jobs along those lines. And we're raising, even if we don't raise $20 million, which will just happen overnight, we're able to raise additional, $2 billion, $3 billion. Add that to what we have in Rivers State, and then tell me there's still, be hunger or people looking for jobs. There are so many young men who are unemployed. There are so many people who live in the shadows of life that we need to do things, to affect their lives. So this election is about those persons. This election is about stopping the bloodletting, in Rivers State. That's what this election is about. That situation where there is a mother who knows of yet another mother who has just lost a child, just has got to stop. So we need to bring, sanity into governance. We need to encourage people to understand that things can be done positively. So there's a need for us to have a total value reorientation.
Fantastic.
So we're coming with, a peaceful approach, right, to elections. That's why I also mentioned that if you get the politics right, then of course you will get the governance right. And once you get the governance right, the economics shall be right. The foundation of our governance, right, is always faulty. Because the mode of conducting primaries, getting into elections, and there are criminal campaigns that we run, and the winner takes all approach, also to government. Indices that would never allow, for growth. They will never allow for peace. So we are bringing a new phase into reverse politics. You have seen that we're not being drawn into all the things that happen. Just a few days ago on the streets of Port Harcourt, particularly in town, where a group of young people, PDP boys, cheering, my posters and bringing down my billboards and all. And so they came to me with a report and said, you know what, we are not going to be drawn into that kind of politics. When they go low, we go high. We have to raise that standard, and that's the minimum that we can do.
Dumo Lulu-Briggs, I'm a little bit challenged. I am challenged because here is a man sitting before me who until April 2017 was a member of the People's Democratic Party. On the 9th of April 2017, he dumped the People's Democratic Party for the All Progressives Congress. And not too long ago, he dumped the All Progressives Congress for the Accord Party. Dumo Lulu-Briggs, consistency is one of the characteristics of a leader. Your political profile does not show you are consistent. Why should Rivers people believe you?
Well, they have just seen that these political parties, that we have, unfortunately, in the states, that are not political parties.
They are not political parties?
Yeah, they're not political parties.
So PDP is not a political party?
No, they are not.
What is PDP?
Well, PDP, right, is a private business, right?
Private business belonging
yes,
to
of
who?
the governor, and of course the person.
You mean the governor of Rivers State?
Oh yes, because we saw what happened in the PDP as it happened also in the APC. Several persons who were interested, who had huge potentials, were not even allowed to contest the primaries in their parties. And it is because these parties, have become owned by individuals. They become owned by individuals. So it defeats the whole essence of joining a political party. Where, of course, if you have great ideas, the people are allowed, to choose among the several persons who have put themselves, forward, right, to contest for several or different, elected positions. If you don't give them the liberty, if you don't allow them the opportunity, right, to contest elections, then of course you're denying Rivers people the opportunity to choose from a good pool of people who are decent, who are capable, who are competent, and who can get the jobs done. So we have seen how persons have been frustrated from political parties that they freely joined, with huge aspirations. They made contributions to build those parties, and those parties deny them the opportunities. In my own situation, Rivers people have said to me in their numbers, that we want you on the 2019 ballot. That we love you, we love your ideas, we know the things that you stand for, we have seen your antecedents, and we see how there's a huge conspiracy that stops you, at the political party level. That conspiracy does not allow you to emerge. So it happened to me in the PDP. And it happened to several of us in the PDP who were frustrated, and in that anger, right, we had to leave the PDP. Unfortunately, I wasn't favored in the PDP, but I stayed on. I stayed on. I watched what was going on in the PDP for a year and a half, perhaps even for 2 years, perhaps even for more. And I realized that there wasn't governance. There wasn't governance. And I didn't see, that PDP represented the interests of Rivers people. I saw the APC, that was doing amazingly well. And I believe that had become the conscience of Rivers State. So, of course, I joined because, I like to be part of the conscience of Rivers State. I like to be part of the positivity, of the state. Unfortunately, in the APC as well, there were huge complaints, And then, of course, we didn't think that the electoral process, the primary, process was fair. And I got affected again. And people came out in their numbers and insisted that I would have to be on the ballots. We got into the Accord Party, not on my own making, because people on their own moved to the Accord, spoke with the leadership of the Accord, and said, look, we need Dumo on the ballots. They had their candidate, of course. But the candidate said, well, he didn't think that he would be able to run elections. So I came through substitution and through the will of several young people, students, market women, people who live in the shadows of life, the physically challenged, the business community, contractors who are eager, right, to get jobs, contractors who are angry that even the few jobs that they've been given opportunity, right, to execute, that government have refused to pay them. So all of these persons, the civil servants, would need to be trained, would need to be appreciated. Pensioners, they came to me, the elderly, the clergy. Several persons, came and said, you will have to be on the ballot.
Now and that you wanted to be on the ballot.
Oh, yeah, well, no, I wanted to be on the ballot and I have been frustrated.
Okay.
Right? I mean, at the APC, of course.
So you were willing to go back,
yeah,
except for those people coming to you?
Oh, yeah, when they came to me, I realized that, look, that several people's destinies are hanging in the balance and something has got to be done. Someone will have to rise, to the challenge that we have
seen.
So
for you, you're doing this for the people?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I draw.
Not because you have a vision for Rivers State.
I have a vision for Rivers, and that's why the people are coming to me. It is because of my vision that the people are saying, look, we want you to be on the ballot because we want to give you our vote so you'll be able to actualize your vision.
I like that, but you see, Dumo Lulu-Briggs, if you have a vision for Rivers State, I should have seen you win election. You've never won any election. Why don't you start that vision from the grassroots area? Well, even in your local government, you've never won any election. How?
Well, it depends on the elections, that you have contested, right? Yeah. And then if you contest an election and you don't win, you get the opportunity of contesting an election again, So, Buhari contested several elections, he didn't win until he contested the fourth one. Abraham Lincoln ran 13 elections that he lost, and he became one of the greatest presidents that America had ever had. So that you haven't won an election because there's been terrible conspiracy. You see, right, there's a political system that is entrenched. There are people who are benefiting from that political system. And they don't need somebody who will come and open the political space for millions of people to come in. And they know that that's what I am.
Okay.
That my whole life is about other people. It's about living your life and allowing others to also live their lives. So they have a system that has worked for just about a percentage, not more than 1 or 2 or 3% of the population of Rivers State. So I will not be deficient in the courage necessary, right, to pursue the aspirations of more than 95% of Rivers people who are looking for a truly representative government. So that is what I stand for. So yes, I haven't won an election, because I haven't contested,
Fantastic.
An election other than when I ran for House of Reps in 1992.
I'm going to be taking calls, and I will be taking on Dumo Lulu-Briggs on several points later on. I will be taking calls, and of course, I want to focus more on the social media. Now, if you're on, please, we want you to send questions on Twitter, #AskDLB. AskDLB. And also you can follow us on Facebook, Viewpoint PH. We are also live on MixLR, that's www.mixlr/rhythm937, and we'll throw up on the telephone lines and we'll get some questions. Let me just quickly go straight to the social media. This one says, good morning to your discussants in the studio. Please, I want to ask your guests in the studio, what is it that the present administration is not doing right? What if you intend to do to enhance governance in Rivers State? So 2 questions there. Question number 1, what do you think this present government is not doing right? And again, I would also want to ask you, what do you think they've done right? And what more do you intend to do to improve on it?
Well, I'll probably be here, in your studio for about 2 hours, perhaps. I'll not be able to say what exactly they've done right. Because if you have, a government that presides over 41.8% unemployment rate, the highest
actually
in Nigeria.
58, actually.
Yeah, 41.8, of Rivers people,
okay, yes,
right, are not employed. 58.9% of Rivers people are downright poor. Now, in addition to the 41.8% of Rivers people who are not employed, you have another 20 to 30% of Rivers people who are underemployed. Now that's a terrible statistics. Rivers State has the highest misery index, right, in the entire country. Rivers State, right, is 36 out of 37 on land registration. Rivers State is 32 out of 36 in ease of doing business. And then you also have the terrible statistics where if there are kidnappings, in Nigeria, there are 100 kidnappings in Nigeria, 60 of those take place here in Rivers State. Now, if I have a government that have deliberately encouraged, the polarization of their people, then I'm hard pressed to see that which they have done right. They may have done one or two things, perhaps, right? But in the face of these glaring statistics, it's difficult for me to say that they've done something right. Now, when you look at these statistics, it tells you that there has to be an intervention. Now, when you create jobs, the insecurity issues, wouldn't be there. And it is not rocket science. I tell you something. In 1999, 2 states were prepared for growth, for takeoff in Nigeria. 2 states, Lagos and Rivers. Mm-hmm. And our situations were a bit similar. They had their 2 airports, a domestic, an international airport. We of course have our local and also our international airport here. Now, they also have. They don't have oil and gas. We have oil and gas.
You mean Lagos?
Oh yes.
What to some extent?
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean comparatively. When we talk about the oil-bearing states, Lagos is not considered as an oil-bearing state. Of course, we know that they do have some oil and a bit of gas. But the point for me here is that that these 2 states were set for takeoff. But in addition, to what both states had, we had our two refineries. We had the petrochemicals. We had NAFCON. And then by military decree, all the multinational companies were to have their headquarters here in Port Harcourt. Today, Lagos State, is the 4th largest economy in Africa. Not Nigeria now. In Africa, it is the 4th largest economy. Rivers State is struggling to find her feet. In 1999, again, I can tell you, Lagos State had the worst security situation. Almost every street in Lagos, had a gate because of the incessant kidnappings, assassinations, robberies, and all that were on. So that if you didn't get to your home at 7 p.m. in the night, you probably would have to stay back wherever you were and come home at 6 a.m. in the morning. So that state that had a terrible and the worst security situation in the country today runs a 24-hour economy. Rivers State has no economy at all.
Well, you think so, because a lot of people may not want to agree with you on that point, that Rivers State has no economy.
Well, so, where's the economy? An economy, that leaves 41% of our people behind. An economy, that leaves 60% of Rivers people miserable. It's not an economy at all. If you have a prosperity that doesn't accommodate all of your people, then you don't have any prosperity. This economy that they have, if it is a prosperous economy, I can tell you it has left more than 90-something% of Rivers people behind. And that's not an economy as far as I'm concerned.
DLB, we're going to take some calls, and when we come back, we'll go back to the Twitter and Facebook. We have comments coming in on Twitter and Facebook. A lot of comments there, and we'll be taking all of them. But quickly, let's go to the telephone lines now. We'll just pick some calls from the telephones. 0902-333-9379 and 0809-751-3294. Hello, good morning, and thank you for joining us. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. Could you just tell us your name and where you're calling from? And please, we want you to make it 60 seconds, please. 60 seconds. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. What's your name and where you're calling from? Hello?
Hello, good morning, Shehu.
Thank you so much for joining us. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, I am Mrs. Ucheke from Uche.
Mr. Ucheke, Mrs. Ucheke, please ask your question.
Yes, I want to ask a question. The guest in the studio, I greet you. Good morning.
Good morning, madam.
During your speech, you did make a statement. You said PDP is a private business. I want to ask you, while you was in PDP, are you telling the public this morning that you joined in privatizing PDP as a private business? That is my question this morning.
All right, thank you so much. What makes him think it's a private business, or were you also part of the private business where you were in the PDP? Hello, good morning, and thank you for joining us. Viewpoint.
Yeah, good morning, Tribu. My name is Barrister Chimene Ward.
Barrister Chimene, good morning. Thank you.
Port Harcourt City.
Yes.
Good morning, Dumo. Let me ask you just one question. You see, we must be, what Nigerians are looking at this time is manifesto. And we have seen a lot of unrealizable manifesto. I think, Dumo, would you be just sincere? Because we have seen the likes of, looking at your president, we have seen the likes of Dangote, in the north, who is also in the private business that you are into, because you spoke about insecurity. Donate cars to the security agencies, even within and out, even outside the north, here in Rivers State. I see security men move with, private vehicles donated by Dangote. How have you been able to contribute, Dumo Lulu-Briggs towards the police,
Thank you so much.
security infrastructure in Rivers State?
In improving security. Thank you so much. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Shegun.
Thank you so much for joining us.
My name is J.A.J. I'm calling you from Port Harcourt.
JJ, good morning.
Yes, sir, let me start from the flooding situation. It rained yesterday, and I can literally tell you that Port Harcourt was virtually submerged because of the little rain yesterday. So what you going to do about that? That is one. Two, virtually almost everything we eat in Port Harcourt right now are either imported from neighboring states. Agriculture and food security, sir. What you gonna do about it? And lastly, cultism and beheading and killing. What are you going to do about that? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, JJ. Now, DLB will just allow you to answer those questions quickly. Perhaps you want to start with the woman that asked you that. Were you also part of the ownership of PDP while you were there?
No, well, I wasn't. When we joined the PDP, it was because it carried a lot of promise, and those who know me understand that I'm a complete Democrat. Even in my own private affairs, I allow for a variety of opinions. I allow for people to make, contributions, to make their suggestions as to how to even improve my own person. So the PDP, gradually, especially, after 2015, became owned by an individual.
Could you just tell us who is this individual?
Well, the people in government, know that at some point.
Do you know the
individual? I don't need to call him.
But you said that it is owned by an individual.
I think yes, and I think that the individual, is very well known because he didn't just.
I don't know the individual. I want to know. I want to know the individual.
It's not just owning the PDP, in Rivers State. There was such, a big influence in the party, that everybody was frightened that they had already taken ownership,
including you. You
PDP,
two, were frightened
of PDP as a national party.
Does it mean that you two were frightened? And that's why you left.
I saw that coming. I saw that coming because I saw that attitude, coming. It was happening in the States, and I knew that at some point, right, it would drag onto the center. You see, right, political parties are actually funded, by individuals, right, and sometimes by big, organizations. And we have a government that was so big, and then we had a party that had lost the center. Therefore, most of the funding was coming, from Rivers State. Rivers State funds were used, right, to fund the People's Democratic Party, not just, at the state level, but also at the national level.
Let me just come in at this point, because you're talking about 2015.
Yes.
And when you say 2015, Rivers State money was used to fund
No. No, I didn't leave the PDP in 2015. I left in 2017.
Yeah, but again, you were saying that
when some
people became the owners of PDP in 2015.
No, not in 2015. By 2015, right, it was beginning to show that people were going to take ownership, right? Individuals were going to take ownership of a party that ought to have belonged to everybody. And I saw those antecedents, and I saw the way governance, was being run.
I'm sorry,
and I knew that there was not an opportunity.
I just want to ask you a little bit question. What makes those people better than you? Why would you leave PDP for them? I mean, you are a lawyer. You are a son of a billionaire. You've been in the oil and gas sector. So what do they have that you don't have that you couldn't match them for it?
No. Well, you see, they have the institutions, right, of states.
And you don't have the institutions?
No. Of course, I'm just a private individual. I don't have those institutions. They have the institutions of states. They have the coercive forces, of states. And unfortunately, they had huge, public revenues that they control, right? And rather than deploy those public revenues to help the public good, those public revenues were deployed to assist them, right, in taking ownership, right, of public establishments, of public, organizations, and also of big political parties. It wasn't just, Dumo Lulu-Briggs feeling that way. The entire country felt it when they realized that an individual had taken ownership of the People's Democratic Party. And we saw how, threats were issued, before the PDP had even a national convention, and how the entire country had to come together to ask themselves, how do we break, this thing? How do we break away from this vice grip, that has taken over our party? So it's not just Dumo Lulu-Briggs. We saw those dangers. Well, unfortunately for them, right, I saw it coming, a lot earlier than they did, and I decided, well, I will have to move. And so I moved, to the All Progressive Congress. Unfortunately, I feel that a few things played out, perhaps because of what was happening in the States. The APC also felt that maybe they needed to deploy some other methods to be able to match what the PDP was doing. And I felt different, and I felt that was wrong.
Actually, what you said was that feudalism is at play at the APC. That's your word. Am I correct?
Well, at the APC and also, at the PDP. More, at the PDP. But of course, we saw the frustrations, right, of people. Several people, not just one person, not just Dumo Lulu-Briggs, several people who felt frustrated, who wanted to have an opportunity, right, to put themselves forward for elective positions, who are denied those opportunities, and they left in the in the millions.
Sorry, Dumo Lulu-Briggs, I'm sorry that I just have to bring you back to this, because when you said there are feudal lords in the PDP, there are also feudal lords in the APC, but not to the magnitude of the PDP. Would I be correct to say you are looking for a place where you can be your own feudal lord?
No, well, we've gone to a place where all of those persons who are seeking opportunities, who are denied opportunities, right, can find a home. Now, we want to demonstrate that these things can be done differently. That you can open the political space and nothing will happen. And you open the political space, it reduces the tensions. If you decide to close the political space, I can tell you that as a corollary, you would close the economic space, because you understand that if you don't, then people with economic might will break through your political fortress and wrest political control from you. So what has happened in Rivers State, unfortunately, is that some people have decided, look, that they are going to close the political space and make sure that political authority will devolve us around themselves and a few cronies. And because of that attitude, they also have, as a corollary, closed the economic space. So you find a situation where a lot of Rivers people are poor. So these statistics, right, actually comes from the poor management of the political party processes. And that's why I mentioned here that sometimes when you look at it critically, you will see that if you get the politics right, then of course you get the economics right. Because once you get it right and then you allow people to freely participate, you have no reason to want to close the economic space. If you open the economic space, then you open yourself, up to ideas. People who have great ideas, who can improve the lot of River States, who will not be allowed any opportunities because they don't belong to the political hegemony in the state.
I just want us to talk a little bit about security, because one of the callers spoke to you on security, and he said to you that what have you done in improving security in your own capacity as a son of River State, as a philanthropist, and also a businessman? Now, again, okay,
but part of what you see, right? People don't understand that sometimes when you create jobs, right, you help to reduce the level of insecurity. Now, I have helped thousands of young people, right, with their businesses. I've helped thousands of young people into universities. I've helped thousands of young people, right, out of their primary school needs, market women, their children in different communities, and even in the police. Unlike the government that will do things, and announce it, right? I have actually made contributions to the police. I've actually made donations of vehicles to the police. And I don't need to come and I'm talking about that, what I've done as a private individual. Now, I don't need to come and announce these things, that I have done. But I can tell you that I am considerably burdened, by the high level of insecurity in Rivers State. And I've taken very positive steps in my own private capacity to see how I can make my own contributions. Unfortunately, and if we have this level of insecurity, right, it means that if I wasn't doing the little that I was doing, then we would have been in a worse, security situation. And what we are in now is bad. So if there are not these little interventions from some of us, and I am very proud of the interventions that I've done across, the LGS, and the things that I do, right, are not about where I am from. It's just that I'm a Rivers person, concerned about every Rivers man, every Rivers woman, every Rivers child, and seeking to provide opportunities for all of them. And so I make that provision, across board. I have a youth foundation called the Dumo Lulu-Briggs Youth Foundation 23 that cuts across all the 23 local government areas of River State, providing opportunities for young people, making sure that people are able to write their jams, write their work, and to get into schools. And then when they come out, we try to assist them, with computers, with little funds, to start up small businesses. So you can see that there are a lot of people who are trading, who are getting things done because of the intervention of Dumo Lulu-Briggs. And I do those things very quietly.
Dumo, I just want us to talk a little bit about security before we go on a break. Now, you recall some time ago, I'm just trying to get the date precisely, you were among those who went on the streets of Port Harcourt kicking against the plan to, the anti-SARS protests. Let me just put it that way. You were not happy that some people were calling for an end of SARS. We have a new police sheriff, the new police IG, and the first thing he did was to reshape SARS. How do you feel now?
Now
that you were one of those who were against that move.
I wasn't against that move. As a matter of fact, I was for that move. What people were asking for was for the scrapping of SARS. Right, and SARS is a special anti-robbery, squad. There are things that they are doing that are laudable and are great, and there are some police officers, who will in every situation, even in America, even in the best of societies, you find some police officers, that behave, terribly. You find some deviant characters in the police force. So what we should do, right, is to find out those persons and make sure that they account, for their actions. What has the new police sheriff done now? He has decided that, look, we're going to put SARS under the control of the commissioners of police across the states. So he didn't say that he was going to scrap SARS. So what we were saying was that you don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. If you don't like what SARS is doing, then let us think about how to restructure SARS. Let us think about how to reorganize SARS rather than say that we should scrap SARS. So what people are saying, they didn't want SARS. And why didn't they want SARS? Because they didn't want, the person whom they felt was the leader, was the leader of SARS in the state, or the commander of SARS in the state. And that is not the reason why you want to throw away, a unit of the police force that is helping with security in a state that has the highest insecurity, number in Nigeria. So what the new police sheriff has done was precisely the reason why we got onto the streets.
Okay.
So you see, we have ideas. We see beyond even people in government. People in government take actions for very selfish reasons, and then we do things, or I do things, right, for the reasons of the society at large. So what I wanted was exactly what the new police sheriff has done.
Dumo Lulu-Briggs will be going on a short break. When we come back from that break, I will allow you answer the question from JJ, and we'll be taking more questions from the social media and also from the telephone. You're listening to Viewpoints, and I'm talking to the Accord Party governorship candidate in River State, Dumo Lulu-Briggs. Silverbear's Rhythm 93.7 Port Harcourt. We're still in the studio with Chief Dumo Lulu-Briggs, popularly called DLB. He's the governorship candidate of the Accord Party. He wants to be known as Mr. Jobs and not Mr. Project. And he has been sharing with us that vision in the last 1 hour with us in the studio right here. And once again, thank you so much for staying with us, Chief Dumo Lulu-Briggs. Now, Chief Dumo Lulu-Briggs, I'm going to give more time to those sending us messages on Facebook and also allow more calls at this point. Perhaps you just start with that question from JJ, and from this time around we'll open up the telephone lines and more internet questions. Yes, sir.
Well, you see, there's an emergency that we're not even attempting to address. There's a serious environmental issue in Rivers State that we're not even trying to address. JJ spoke about the small rains that fell yesterday, and now almost the entire city of Port Harcourt was flooded. Now, this is also an environmental problem, right? So we need to run an audit. There is an emergency that we have to take care of. We need to find out exactly what we can do, and within the shortest amount of time. I don't see the present government responding to it, and it's so unfortunate because this is something that we have lived with over time, and nothing has happened. So there is a need for us to call this an emergency. It's a crisis situation, and we need to address it as such. We must run an audit. Look at all the things that have happened. Most of our young people who are every day being harassed by the fumes and the flares all around us. and people are dying in their numbers, and government is not responding to it.
No, you won't say government is responding.
Well, government is not responding adequately to it.
Adequately, well,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Okay, yeah. So government is not responding adequately to it. So we need to run an audit, an environmental audit, and then find out exactly what we need to do. Even in the health sector, we have to run an audit. Because we have the highest infant mortality rates. We see a
Do you
situation
have the
where-
statistics to that? That said we have the highest infant mortality rates.
Oh yes.
Can you give us that
Oh
statistics?
yes. For every 1,000 beds that we have in River State, right, we have at least 60 of those persons, dying. For every 1,000 beds as well, we have 65%, of our mothers not making it.
According to
today, well, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, everything that I say, right, you can find out from statistics. There is nothing that is Dumo's figure. Therefore, we have to find a way to assist those who are particularly vulnerable. Now, we're not going to run a free, Medicare, free, healthcare services, but we must ensure that healthcare is not allowed to your wealth.
DLB, I just want to take some comments from the social media, and I have one coming from I am DD Joe. I am DD Joe said, if you're elected the governor of River State, tell us what you will do in the first 3 months of being in office.
Once we get into government, we will have to sit down and form that innovation triangle. The innovation triangle between government, the business community, and the academia. It's very important. Like I mentioned, the rational exuberance of the American economy, right, in the last 50 years was because of 3 innovations. And those innovations, were created because of the relationship, the triangular relationship between government, the academia, and of course the business community. So the moment we get into office, because we need to create jobs for Rivers people, we need to affect our education. So we're going to set up that triangle, fuse it together properly so that it becomes very productive. And in the next 30 days after we get into office, the triangle tells us exactly the direction, of things to be done. Because we have to radicalize the entire our curriculum. See, there's a whole lot that we need to do. I tell you, I'm a product of private schools, of public schools. I went to government comprehensive secondary school here in River State. Now, our parents were very proud to have us in those schools. Our parents lobby to have their children in public schools. Today, that is not happening. And if you have to address the gulf between the rich and the poor, you have to address, right, the lack of opportunities that poor people, go through in educating their children and in finding jobs for their children. Otherwise, we have an impending situation in our hands. So there's a radicalism that we need to bring, into government.
Okay.
And I need to do that with the critical sectors. Government working very closely with the business community, working very closely with the academia. And that would be...
At Mayoko Charles is asking, good morning, DLB. What is your plan for the sports sector in River State?
Oh, amazing. When I was growing up, right, River State and Lagos State and Bender States, when we had just the 12-state structure, were known, right, as the sporting states of Nigeria. Now, all of that, is gone. Now, if you look at the number of young people who don't have jobs, but who have talents, then you have to know that this is a critical sector that you must look at. In those days, we had courts, we had fields, we had swimming areas, we had huge arenas. The civic center, was built, right, to train Rivers people, to give them an opportunity to go, right, and train and find out how they would, realize their potentials in different, sports, and games. Unfortunately, we're not doing that anymore in this state. I will pay very critical attention to that because people are looking for jobs. The education system has got to be, skewed in a way that people are trained for the jobs that are available. So we have to look at the jobs that are going to come in this 21st century and whether or not we are training our people for those jobs. So in the same vein, we are going to look at sports as a critical area that will, accommodates a vast majority of Rivers people who are looking for things to do, who are well endowed, who are gifted, but people are not allowed the opportunities to realize their potential. Government is simply not concerned, about the millions of our young people who are out of jobs. And these are all areas that you can actually get them very actively engaged.
At Acho _Amodu, he said your guest Dumo Lulu-Briggs spoke eloquently on his plan if elected governor. There is so much insecurity in River State at the moment, and it doesn't appear that the current administration gets the well. That's what he thinks. He says, what more will you do? At Acho _Amodu, he wants to know what more you intend to do for security.
Well, first and foremost, right, it's the nature of the man and the sort of administration that he's going to run. Even in our rhetoric, even in our language, right, we tend to allow for this deviant behavior. And it's unfortunate. I just told you. Only yesterday, several people were on the streets in town. What were they doing? Tearing down my posters and my billboards. Nothing more. Now, you have a government that is not concerned about all of that. Nobody is speaking to it. Now, what that will mean, if I were, given to such tendencies, will be that, I find a way to retaliate. And once you do that, you're heightening the insecurity situation in the state. And people begin to think, that even their leaders are allowed for this sort of attitude. So it is a proper way, of life. So we are bringing credibility, we are bringing rationality into governance. We are bringing civility into governance, and that will help in no small way. And when you also take care of the unemployment situation, and people are gainfully employed, that's hardly anybody. I mean, Shego, you're gainfully employed, you're doing something, right? So if you're not, and I can tell you, go and watch a movie called Trading Places by Eddie Murphy. Trading Places, and you will see that most of us who are speaking the way we are, if we are completely bereft of opportunities, we probably will not, be able to say today confidently that we won't behave the same way that most of our young people are behaving today. It's a clear lack of opportunities. We have a state that have left their people, and they have left their people right to fend for themselves.
But that's a big one, a big allegation there, dear. But I'm just going to take another one from the Twitter, from Twitter. At DBishop24, DBishop24 is asking, Chief Dumo Lulu-Briggs, what are your plans for the seaports in River State? Because we keep comparing Rivers and Lagos. We all know that what has given Lagos the upper hand in terms of development is the seaport. Secondly, which is the big party, APC or PDP, will you defect to if by the stroke of luck you win? Well, it's assuming that part of the grand plan is that when you win, you will defect to another or to either of the two bigger political parties, PDP or APC. Is that part of your plan? And that is at DP Bishop 24.
Well, I'm happy that people are saying that, because they're beginning to see me as a winner. What we're trying to also demonstrate, right, is the inviolability, some people thought, right, of the two-party system, the two big parties. What the Accord has shown, and all the young people, the old people, the market women, the teachers, the clergy that are moving into the Accord. For the first time, I'm seeing even the clergy people, right, pray for a party to succeed, and they're doing so in their numbers. Is that they see a party, that is prepared to play party politics by the books, and is prepared to give Rivers people wonderful opportunities. So there is something that we are teaching the major parties, and we may find a situation where the major parties will begin to learn from our examples. Therefore, we're not looking to join them. But the beauty of this, and the way I'm happy about this question that is raised, is that people are beginning to understand that this next election in 2019 is going to be about the individuals, and that Dumo Lulu-Briggs, right, is the pole position to win the next elections. So that is taking my aspiration very seriously, and taking the support of Rivers people very seriously. And I must,
We're still talking to Chief Dumo Lulu-Briggs, DLB. Now, I will open the telephone line, but just before that, you're campaigning for President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yeah.
Why so?
Well, unfortunately, like I said, what is the PDP offering? Muhammadu Buhari is not the best but it's the best available.
But you've asked your party members to vote Muhammad
Yes,
Buhari.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not the best, but it's the best available. It's the best available. Now, what is the PDP saying that they are going to do differently? I mean, and how have they demonstrated that that difference from the few states that they control? So Nigerians had 16 years of PDP and they got tired of PDP. Because PDP just didn't deliver the dividends. PDP came, with a lot of promises, and people actually joined, in their numbers. It became so large, and they believed that they would probably hold on to the reins of authority for about 60 years. Unfortunately, it lasted for just about 16 years because the people felt completely dissatisfied about the PDP. Now, when you look at this government and the previous government, and people will say, oh, people still had a few things going for them. What we used to have in the PDP administration was that we had people who were living on the fortunes of their children. We were living on the fortunes of our children who were borrowing. There was a lot of living above, our standard. There was nothing that, we had that guaranteed the lifestyles, that we were living before 2015. And what this government, is doing, yes, and it's difficult, it's tough. But it's to say, look, gentlemen, we will no longer allow you to take opportunities that should belong to our children. And if you want, to live a decent life, you want to live, a flamboyant life, you will have to work for it. You cannot borrow from succeeding generations. That is the difference between the PDP and the APC. The PDP allows you, to dip into some things that don't belong to you, and the APC says that no, you cannot. That whatever you have must truly belong to you.
So, like when I say that you still have sympathy for the APC?
Oh, well, yes, I'm a Nigerian, and I have to carry out, my civic responsibility. And I see that the contest, at the center is between the PDP and the APC. And I look at what we have, and I know that the future of this country is not in the PDP. Unfortunately, the APC may not be the best, but it is the best that we have available. And even the president has not claimed that it's the best, but it's the best that we have available.
So we might see Dumo Lulu-Briggs returning to the APC sometime.
Well, I'm not thinking about that. There is, a lot of work to be done, right, to build the accord that have given me this tremendous, opportunity, this great, platform. And accord, of course, means agreement. With all the things that we've had, in our politics in the States, the accord offers a new vision, a new direction, for Rivers people. And I think that will be a great example for people to emulate. And it will be a shame, that I win the elections and run to the APC almost immediately.
Let's go back to the telephone lines and we'll speak more to Dumo Lulu-Briggs. 0902-333-9379, 08097513294. We'll go to the telephone line, but just before then, we'll take a short break. And after that, we get all of your comments on Dumo Lulu-Briggs, his governorship aspiration, his vision, his candidature, and what he thinks about governance in River State. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. And thank you so much for staying with us. This is Viewpoint, and we have Dumo Lulu-Briggs in the house. We'll just take telephone calls now. Hello, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. This is Viewpoint.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Barrister.
Barrister, good morning and welcome to the show. You have 60 seconds to ask the question.
Yeah, let me say good morning to the guests in the studio.
Good morning, Chile.
My question is, prior before Wike became the governor of River State, there are so many institutions and departments and government agencies that we are working. And when Governor Wike came in, first of all, he disbanded TMARIF. Secondly, he disbanded almost all agencies and agencies sector.
Not almost
and
all.
And again, he withdrew. I said almost all, not all. Now, the worst of it all, he withdrew all our students studying abroad. And they came back here and started constituting more museums because they are now valueless, because they are no longer students.
Barrister Chisholm,
and now, my question is, will you, assuming you become the governor of the state, will you do this type of line up?
All right, thank you so much.
Who you presently have refused to mention to be the terror in PDP, which you are hiding.
We have another call here. Hello, good morning. Hello. Hello. Are you there? Yes, good morning. Hello. All right, we'll just take another one. I think we have a challenge with that particular line. Let's take this one. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Yeah, DLB, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, my name is Comrade I am Braid. I'm calling you from Bolokri.
Comrade Braid, you have 60 seconds to ask a question, please.
Yes, my first question. You have spoken very extensively. My first question, when you get to office, within your 3 months, what will be your action concerning River State workforce?
All right, concerning the workforce, what will be your action? Well, thank you so much. And that's the question. We'll just take another one. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Segu.
Thank you so much for joining us.
It's Professor Kronochukwu.
Professor Keonuchukwu, good morning, sir.
Yeah, please, Dumo is a lawyer. I want to ask him just one simple question.
Okay.
What is the take on this suspension of CJ?
What's your take on the suspension of the Chief Justice of Nigeria? Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Professor Keonuchukwu. DLB, we allow you to answer the 3 questions.
Well, thank you so very much. Let me start with Barrister Chizi, who would like to know what I would do regarding the strides that were taken by previous administrations that were considered by Rivers people, as laudable, and they were discontinued, by the present government. I think the answer is very clear. Government right is a continuum, right? There's nothing that is beautiful, that you want to throw away just because, you didn't like the person who created that beauty. So if there are things that were done, even by this wicked administration, if we get into office and we're able to find any, we would like to continue all of those ones, because Rivers people's money had been spent on that, taxpayers' money have been spent on those things, and we can't abandon them. And you see, there's also this fallacy that sometimes, when we run a government, it benefits some people. If you look at the Greater Port Harcourt, story, Greater Port Harcourt is actually created in the Ikore areas, and you have a governor of Ikore extraction who discontinued that project just because he didn't like his predecessor, and this is unfortunate. So we have to remove hate from our politics. We have to run our politics in a way that encourages people. So for Dumo Lulu-Briggs, where I'm coming into governance with a lot of positivity, all the things that have happened that are good, we are going to look at them. There is nothing that we shall discontinue just because we didn't like the previous administration. Rivers people's money have been spent on those things, and we shall make sure that there is value, for money.
So what's your plan for civil servants in River State?
Well, first and foremost, this the incessant audit that we have, the endless audit we have to stop. We need to know, what is the workforce. We have to train them, and then we have to ensure that they get their salaries as at when due. There will be a lot of training and retraining, because the civil service is the engine. Like I just told you, we are going to have an innovation triangle, and most of those civil servants will be part of that innovation triangle. So we need to also train them. We need to value them. When we were growing up in River State, the civil service was the envy, was the pride of River State. And today, it's just unfortunate. Civil servants go to work, they don't even know why they are, at work, because they're not even allowed to do anything. So we are going to return power back to the civil servants, and we're going to treat them with the dignity, that they expect. You are going to see a government that is transparent. You see, there's a difference between politics and governance. Some people are great, in politics, because politics can sometimes be dirty, and so that's fine. But governance at all times have got to be transparent. So you find that some people, fall short, even though they've done tremendously well, in politics, they're not able to do the same thing, in governance.
Well, Dumo Lulu-Briggs, and the last question here, we have a question coming through, and this is saying that you are a lawyer.
Yeah.
As a lawyer, what's your take about the suspension of Justice Onoge?
Well, it hit all of us, as a shock, in this country. And so we've not been able to assess, all the facts. But what I do know, is that we have to look at all the actions they were taking, and if they were not constitutional, then they have to be reversed.
As a lawyer, do you think it is constitutional?
Yeah, when we get all the facts, there is something that was said by the Chief Justice of India, that judicial credibility is higher than judicial, independence in his own estimation. So there is there has to be credibility of the judiciary, and there has to be independence, of the judiciary. Now, it is not up to the executive, right, to tell the judiciary how to behave, because this is, a separate arm of government.
But this is the same executive you're campaigning for. You're campaigning for President Muhammad Buhari to return.
Yes. Oh, yes, of course, of course. So we have to. You don't have a government, that will be perfect. I mean, government will make their mistakes, but overall, right, what has the government brought to the table? I mean, when you look at it on the average, would you say this government have done well or not? So that's how we're looking at it in deciding whether to support the APC or the PDP. But this is an action that happened yesterday, right, and it has got to be looked at, right, in its entirety. I support the independence, of the judiciary, and I'm going to work for the independence of the judiciary, and because that is the last hope of the common man. When perhaps I appear next and I've looked at all the facts, of this situation, then we'll be able to address it, more directly. But I agree, that it is something of concern, and all of us should be concerned. And I'm sure that the president will listen. And if probably, you do the actions, right, based on wrong advice or wrong premise, I'm sure that by the time he hears from, Nigerians, and they've done it a few times, when they've taken action that they felt, were right, and then they realized that the actions were wrong, and they were able to reverse themselves. And that is the beauty of a government that listens.
Fantastic.
And in my own government, I am going to maintain a 360 degrees radius. We're going to hear the people when they smile, we're going to hear them when they cry, and we'll know exactly why they are crying and why they are smiling. We shall ensure that we subdue our passions and we control our appetites and commit completely to growing people and states.
All right, let's just keep the question coming. Hashtag DLB, ask DLB, hashtag ask DLB. Now, Dumo Lulu-Briggs, just before I take more on Twitter and on Facebook. Now, recently, the Rivers State government announced the cancellation of some state-owned assets sold by the former administration to a private business concern, a particular private business concern. How would you describe that move by Governor Wike? As a businessman and as one who's contesting to be the governor of Rivers State.
Well, it's not encouraging, right?
It's not encouraging.
No, it's not encouraging at all. It's actually frightening when private sector funds, right, that you're looking for, because you need the private sector, right, to grow your economy. And if the private sector decides to come and invest, in your economy, and then you decide that you will cancel, existing contracts, there will have to be a foundation for all of those. Now, I haven't looked at, the entire gamut of what happens, so I do not know if there's a foundation, for that. Contracts have been cancelled. Yes, I mean, if you've heard,
the sale of assets.
Well, in the past.
So, which means you approve of the way the assets were sold.
No. I do not know of the way the assets, were sold. So, if the government have evidence that the assets were sold, right, in a manner that wasn't transparent, then of course, that can be a vitiating element, right, in the entire thing. And if that is what the government have done, well, yes. So we're going to look at the facts, of each of these situations.
If you become the governor, will you revoke that order if you become the governor?
No, well, if I find out that it was done right for purely, personal reasons rather than state, reasons, rather than for the good of the state, of course, you have to reverse it. But if we find that it was done, right, in the interest of Rivers State, of course, it stays. Because what is paramount, right, is not the individuals that we know. We're going to step on toes, unfortunately, because we want to work for the people. So when we get there and then we look at the facts, dispassionately, and we find that, this was the right action of government. And of course, it didn't matter if the owners of those assets were my friends, my brothers, or whatsoever. The most important thing is that this is a benefit that ought to go to Rivers State that didn't go to Rivers State. So that's how we're going to look at it, purely on the merits.
Dumo Lulu-Briggs, let's just take more calls now. Please, could you just restrict your call to 60 seconds? 0902-333-9379. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Shegun. My name is Mishak. I'm calling from Transamadi.
Mishak, you're welcome.
Good morning, sir. Your guest did say that real health statistics, infant mortality and maternal mortality rate in Rivers State. And in both cases, he said that out of every 1,000, 50 dies. And that is a very high one. I want to I want your guest to reiterate again, because he is on record. Because this is about statistics. It's not just about coming to appeal for the vote of people.
Actually, he said that you can check up what he said from the National Bureau of Statistics.
Because not just check up because he may have made a mistake. He could quite because I don't think he has.
Okay, now you can go ahead.
Finally, Shegun, finally. First of all, it's wrong. There has not been flooding. There is no flooding in Port Harcourt. What happened, especially after every downpour, is waterlogging. It's not flooding. I think that those who the nomenclature should be very clear here so that we can understand what it is. It's not flooding.
Okay.
Port Harcourt is not flooded.
It's flash
You
flooding.
understand? So let your guest reiterate again.
All right, thank you so much, Mishak. Thank you so much, Mishak. Let's just take another one. Hello, good morning.
Hello, Shegu, good morning.
Thank you so much for
My
joining
name
us.
is Akanto. I'm calling from Bodogoni.
I can't see your question.
Shegu, I want to ask our guest. There was a time a few years ago, the court of Rivers State was shut down by an administration. What did he speak about? If he comes to power as the governor of Rivers State, what will we do? Because maybe he is passionate with what is happening at the center at this point in time. Then Shegu, Ateketom and other prominent traditional rulers in Rivers State, there was a demonstration. There was a demonstration against them on a banner. How, as a person, as our candidate of a party, how we reconcile with some prominent traditional ruler like Ateke, on which he himself was frontliner of campaigning a calumny against the traditional ruler at the country. Then finally, Shegu, where the Lulu-Briggs?
I can't. I'm sorry.
Where is the deputy governor from?
Okay,
And
let's
the
just leave
development-
that. Now, let's just answer those two questions. First, Mishak wants you to clarify that statistics you gave on the mortality rate in River State.
Yeah, thank you, Mishak. You know, I don't do things just for the sake of running people down. I do things, because that is what it is. And I always like one of my favorite quotes, is from Aristotle, who says that Plato, is dear to him, but dearer still is the truth. I can tell you that as a matter of fact, right, I was even very conservative and my statistics was even wrong. The truth of the matter is that we have the highest infant mortality rate at about 58. Yes, about 58, of 1,000. So it's not
Every
60.
1,000.
Yes, about 58. Yes. And one of the worst maternal death rates at 77. Not even 65 that I thought, at 77. Now, 65 out of the 1,000 children, die before they are 5 years old. So 65 out of the 1,000, die before they are 5 years old. 77%, 77 of 1,000, right, is the maternal death rate. And 58, right, is infant mortality rate.
Am I correct to say your source is the National Bureau of Statistics?
Yes, correct. I mean,
National Bureau of Statistics.
Yes, so I'm sure that Mishak, will be able to go and check
Now,
the records and find it out.
I can't want a clarification on the issue. Well, you were accused, among some other politicians, of Calabar extraction, of calling a prominent traditional ruler in River State a cultist. Could you clarify on that?
Well, Shego, I'm so happy that this question was not just been asked by you, so you're just reiterating, and I'm glad that you've done that, because I was going to go to it even if we thought I didn't have time. First, right, I am a product of tradition. I am a product of culture, and I know that a people have the right to decide who becomes their king, and we don't have a right to call the king of any tribe, of any community, a cultist. And I didn't do so, and I will never do that. First and foremost, I have no records to show that Ateketom is a cultist, King Ateketom. So why would I call him a cultist? Now, I also know that there was an amnesty program that was carried out by the federal government, that gave a blanket amnesty to several persons. And this is someone who has brought, conducted himself, re-engineered himself in such a way that his people have found him worthy and have made him their king. So it would be wrong of me to call the king of a people a cultist or anything, untoward. I didn't do that. It's unfortunate that, of course, it was a mass rally. There were several persons in that rally. And so it was possible that one or two persons, had their own agenda. But my agenda was purely to say, look, we can't throw away SARS. We can't throw away the baby with the bathwater. And I didn't go there, right, to run any individual down. And I didn't speak. When I spoke, I mean, my speech was very clear. I didn't speak about any individual, let alone speak about someone whom, their people have become proud of and they call him their king. So I would never have done that. My father, right, is also, in the traditional institution, right, he's the head of the Lulu-Briggs house. So I can't, look at a traditional ruler and say, oh, well, that is unworthy, when his people have found him completely worthy. So I didn't do that, and I would never have done that. Somebody asked, where my deputy is from.
Yes.
My deputy, his name is Nakwaswa Otua Hat. He's from Thai local government. Now, he was one of those persons, who funded, the most up actively, as a young man, at the time. He gave his life, to that struggle for the emancipation, of his people. And his people are so proud of him. I didn't select him. His people chose him, and said, look, that for this ticket to be balanced and for us to know, right, that you are truly, desirous of carrying every area of this state along, this is the man that will want to be on the ticket with you. And it's a great asset.
Dumo, Lulu-Briggs, I'm going to take some questions. Hello, good morning. Hello. Okay. Hello, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. This is Viewpoint. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, thank you so much.
Hello?
Yes, good morning. What's your name, sir? Where are you calling from?
My name.
Sorry, I didn't get that, please.
My name is Okwando Obidya.
Okay, Okwando. Good morning. Your question?
Yes, mine is not only a question. It's just a contribution.
Okay, now, well, just make it 60 seconds, please.
Yes, I want to encourage the man in your studio. I am a registered voter here in Liverpool, but I'm not going to say that he's my candidate for now. But I want to encourage him, because if you look at the level of declaration of leadership here in Liverpool, you need people like him to come and challenge the leadership here in Liverpool. I say I want to encourage him. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Okwando. Quite appreciate that. I will take another one. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Shebu. Good morning, our guest in the studio.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, I'm Prince. I'm calling from home.
Prince, good morning.
Yes, I have listened to the first group, and I want to ask you simple thing. In response to the answer you gave, the person that I can't ask, concerning the defamation of character.
Okay, yes.
If a party is on a protest, and as somebody who has the interest of the state at hand, to spirit and institution that will define the character of the highly exalted thing, what was your advice to them in order not to be
Well, I'm sorry, the line is not very clear, but again, I believe you're talking about the defamation issue, alleged defamation issue, but I think DLB has clarified that. He has said he's never involved in that, and he will not do that. I think that should be enough for now. Let's just take another one. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Shebu.
Thank you for joining us. Viewpoint.
Yes, my name is Mr. Ken. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
Mr. Ken, good morning. Your question, please.
Yes, I'm a Rivers youth, and I'm worried that there is no functional industry in Rivers State. You know that one of the key deficiencies or loopholes in the present administration in Rivers State is in the area of lack of capacity to create jobs or invest in human capital development. At some point, the government said that we should apply online, that they wanted to recruit 10,000 youth and teachers. Little did we know that it was all
So
defeat.
what's your question?
So I want to quickly ask, what assurance is Chief Dumo Lulu-Briggs giving to millions of Rivers youth listening to you today as regards the creation of jobs?
Human capacity development, job creation. Well, if you have been following us, you would have heard Chief Dumo Lulu-Briggs' plan for job creation. We had asked him that earlier, but I'll also allow him to answer that question. I'll just take this one call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Viewpoint.
Yes, my name is Chief Ganitoba.
Chief Ganitoba, good morning.
Good morning, my elder brother. Well, my own is just a quick advice to young Rivers people. Well, my own is just a advice because I saw that people, when a program like this is going on, if people ask questions or great issues based on party lines or what with disrespect or something. So I want to appeal that it should be issue-based.
All right.
Then second, I want to say that let us do this 2019 election with all manner of peace and brother, because whether you are a Calabari, you are a Kwere, you are Ogoni, we are all brothers and we are all one River State.
Thank you so much.
Let us see it in a way, if I don't get it, let River State fall down. I just want to advise that is the way to go.
All right, thank you so much. Let's leave it at that. Now, let me just allow Dumo Lulu-Briggs to answer the questions there. Somebody talk about human capital development. I know you've said something on that, but you can maybe just in 2 minutes reiterate your plan.
Well, thank you so very much, right? I said that by the time I'm done, I'll be known as Mr. Jobs because of the several, jobs that we would have created. The whole idea of getting into governance is to eradicate poverty or fight poverty as much as possible. So by the time we are done, we'll be known by the number of Rivers people that we have removed from poverty and taken into prosperity. Now, we intend to create growth pool industries, support SMEs, fund, a venture capitalist, right, to look at the critical needs of millions of young Rivers people. Well, let me not say millions, but thousands of young Rivers people that who have ideas and who have funding challenges, to make sure that those funds are available to them, and to also take an interest in their business to ensure that the funds are not just released, but they help them to manage those businesses, right, to success. And this has happened in several other clients, and we're going to do it here. I've also said that we have to rejig our curriculum and ensure that we have trained people for the jobs that are going to come. The oil and gas industry, right, in Nigeria is going to endure. And if you look at the plans of government, right, there is the gas economy that is coming. And that gas economy, we must make sure that our people are trained. And we must also ensure that we have industries, to take care of the entire corridor, the entire energy corridor. So we're going to have, for instance, industries in clusters. I mentioned the Egi cluster. I mentioned the Sombrero cluster. The Egi cluster will take care of, by Guber and the Orachi area. The Sombrero cluster, of course, will take care of, the Sombrero riverine communities of Akubutoro, Asaretoro, Degema. We're talking about, the Okrika cluster. We're talking about the Ogoni cluster. We talked about the Eche cluster. We talked about the huge Ikwere cluster. Now we understand that we need to create jobs, and once we create those jobs, these industries, the unemployment that we have will just disappear. Okay. And there's nothing that says that even in doing projects that we shouldn't invite the Julius Bergers and the rest of them. But we have a lot of local contractors in Nigeria, in Rivers State as well, who are also competent, and they must be utilized. Not just being utilized, they must be paid. Most of these local contractors are owed huge amounts of money, and so it shouldn't surprise you that we have the highest misery index. So we are going to approach governance from a completely different perspective, and to perhaps, right, assuage the passion of those who are concerned about the alleged defamation of King Ateketom. Right? I made it very, very, very clear that whenever you find a gathering, in thousands, as we had on that day, there will be one or two persons who probably, will have an agenda that you would not know. So the moment I realized what had happened, even though I didn't, disparage the king, I sent an apology to him and I said, look, yes, this happened and it's unfortunate that it happened. It shouldn't happen again.
Okay, then, Chief Dumo Lulu-Briggs, I just have about 5 minutes more to go. I know you've talked something about the seaport, but that question just keeps coming. What do you intend to do for the seaports that we have? One of the best seaports in the country, but it seems not to be. We have several questions on that line.
Well, unfortunately, right, we have no industries. We have no security. You don't expect the seaports to function. That's just, that's just it. People have not seen Rivers State, right, as a destination for business. They have not seen that in Rivers State, the ease of doing business is huge. They also don't see that their goods will be secure in Rivers State. So your seaports will not function optimally until you address the rudiments. Now there are areas of collaboration that we need to do with the Nigerian Ports Authority and the federal government, right, to ensure that our seaports are of standard. Now those ones, of course, we can do in collaboration. But having done that, you need the requisite business atmosphere to be prevalent in the states for any of these business ideas, to flourish. That is why we're going to bring a business approach to governance, completely business approach, to governance. I've done that in my private life, and I'm doing that. I've run businesses successfully, taking businesses, that were in huge debts, right, into profitability, and I've sustained, a small 2,000 barrels, of production company for more than 11 years, doing amazingly great things, providing jobs, for young people and even for Rivers people. For Rivers people who are employed, right, in this business, even though it is not, situated in Rivers State, right, will amuse you. So all that I am for, right, is business.
Tell us, Chief Dumo Lulu-Briggs, just a couple of days ago, there was a presidential debate. And a lot of people were expecting to see two big major parties there, but they did not participate. What's your thinking about debates or governorship debates for River State, or debates, candidates or political parties involving in debates? What's your thinking?
No, I think that we should endeavor to make those debates compulsory. I think that it's important for your ideas to be challenged by the Nigerian public, and for the Nigerian public to understand that you're truly talking to them about the things that you will do, and the things that you say that you're going to do. So I don't subscribe to the idea of these debates not taking place. Now, the reason why those two major parties didn't take part in those debates, I wouldn't know. But of course, even in America, that's a minimum standard, that's a minimum threshold, right, for participation of political parties in debates. There are like 90-something or 100-something political parties in America, but the debates are usually between the top two, or perhaps a third one, if that third one had proven to be of a certain standard, of a certain stature that allows it, that guarantees it a position on that debate.
So tell us,
perhaps perhaps the issue that they're taking exception to, that is being lumped together with political parties and their candidates that have no presence. So maybe there should be a debate for the big ones, and then of course maybe if we want to hear from everybody else, we can also organize such debates. But there's no place in the world where they allow debates for all the parties. There has to be a standard.
Will you be willing to participate in a governorship debate in River State?
Well, I've already subscribed to it, but I also appeal that they ensure that the governor also will participate at the debate.
So if the governor is not there, you will not be there?
Well, this contest, right, is going to be, as things stand today, as you know, right, it's between the PDP and the Accord. And if the APC are fortunate to have candidates, it's going to be between the APC, the PDP, and the Accord. And it would be nice that each of us take this matter of debate very seriously, and all of us try. If the APC qualifies to be part of the debate, right now the two parties that have qualified, by the standards that I use, the Accord and the PDP have qualified. So if the governor is not participating, would I be debating against myself?
Chief Dumo Lulu-Briggs, I'm just going to give you 2 minutes. Talk to Rivers people.
Well, there's a new dawn that is coming, and I'm hopeful, that new dawn, right, will be recognized by all Rivers people. It's an amazing time that, we're going to experience. 2019 shall be a turning point, shall be a defining moment in our politics. Time was when governance, was strong, and our institutions were great, and they provided all of us amazing opportunities. We don't have that today, and that's unfortunate. So my prayer is that we have a government that is loved by the people, and the only way the people will love their government is that the government is providing for them. So my vision, is simple, right? Is to have a river state that is of a developed and a modern state, which is globally recognized as a primary destination for business, residents, and tourism in Africa. The vision is of a state with well-appointed multiple cities that boast of peace and security, good roads, and an efficient transportation network. That is the vision that we have. And I will say that it is time for someone smart enough to know, strong enough to do, and sure enough to lead, to be the governor of River State. Thank you.
Chief Dumo Lulu-Briggs, thank you so much for coming on Viewpoint.
Thank you for having me, Shegu. Thank you so very much, Rivers people.
Well, it's been a very exciting moment talking to DLB, Dumo Lulu-Briggs, and he's been sharing with us his vision, his passion, and his aspiration for River State. He is a candidate of the Accord Party. Well, thank you so much for being part of the show this morning.